Saluton ĉiuj, mia nomo estas Kevin Banks, kaj mi volas paroli al vi pri Esperanto. Mi ekkonis Esperanto antaŭ 2 aŭ 3 jarojn, kaj mi jam lernas kaj parolas ĝin ekde. Mi kredas ke Esperanto estas bela lingvo, kaj mi esperas ke pli da popoloj lernus ĝin. What you've just heard is an example of Esperanto. Esperanto is an artificial language, which means that it was created deliberately as opposed to natural languages like English, French, or Mandarin. Created in the late 19th century, Esperanto was originally an attempt of uniting the world in one common language that was culturally neutral and easy to learn. The language features a vocabulary that is derived mainly from European languages, but it also features a grammar that has much more in common with other world languages. Esperanto currently possesses a vast and diverse array of speakers, each producing their own literature, music, and a thriving culture all their own. In this presentation, you will learn about Esperanto, its history, its current status, and the speakers and their culture. Esperanto is the product of a Polish-Jewish eye doctor, Ludwig Lazarus Zamenhof. Zamenhof was born in 1859 in the city of Białystok, which was then a part of the Russian Empire. He grew up around speakers of many languages which he would learn, including Polish, Russian, Yiddish, and German. He would later go on to study other languages such as Latin, Greek, Hebrew, French, and even English. Zamenhof noted that many of his neighbors would get into arguments, which he believed was due to the misunderstandings brought on by a lack of a common language without the cultural baggage of the languages which they already spoke. With this in mind, Zamenhof began working on such a language that could be applied on a large scale. In 1887, he published his Unua Folio about the language which he called La Lingvo Universala, but would be better known by the name of Zamenhof's pseudonym, Doctoro Esperanto. The essential form of the language has remained virtually unchanged ever since. The language quickly grew to such popularity that by 1905, the first World Congress of Esperanto was hosted in France, and every year after that saw a World Congress, interrupted only by the 2 world wars. In the 1930s, leaders such as Hitler and Stalin reacted against Esperanto. Hitler believed that since Zamenhof was Jewish, the language was a part of an international Jewish conspiracy to take over the world, while Stalin believed Esperanto to be, quote, a language of spies that would be used to spread enemy propaganda. With this, both regimes began banning Esperanto and exiling or even executing its speakers. Esperantists would react to the injustice by using the language itself as a tool of activism. Another fatal blow was dealt to the movement in the 1950s and the Cold War, when both sides became suspicious of Esperanto as a potential tool of espionage. These fears subsided by the end of the decade, but by then the damage had been done. Only in the 1970s would there be a rise in the learning of the language, and since the 1990s, the rise of the internet has brought new life to the Esperanto movement, with such events as the creation of an Esperanto Wikipedia page in 2001, called Wikipedio, the creation of learning sites such as lernu.net in 2002, and even Google's addition of Esperanto as an optional language in 2012. Today, Esperanto is spoken by an estimated 2 million people worldwide, and while it hasn't yet become the common second language of the world, it is the most successful attempt of a language of this kind. The largest body governing the language is the Universal Esperanto Association, the UEA, and most statistics on the language come from this organization. Through the UEA, Esperanto has been in communication with the United Nations and UNESCO, which both officially recognize Esperanto and their various movements for their humanitarian work. Esperanto has been held in practical use by multiple organizations with many political and religious leanings, from democracy to anarchism, from Catholicism to Judaism, and smaller religious groups like Baha'i and Omoto. A quick search on the internet can lead one to Esperanto websites, literature sharing forums, and radio networks featuring news from Cuba to China, as well as international music and even papal addresses from the Vatican. Magazines and periodicals are written in the language, as well as great works of literature and poetry. In many countries throughout the world, an Esperanto association can be found, as well as countless clubs and organizations where people can meet face-to-face and converse in Esperanto about anything. Esperanto's success as a language has been attributed to the ease at which it can be learned. The following is taken from the introductory course at lernu.net, by far the largest site for online learning of Esperanto. There are only 16 fundamental rules of grammar, and that has remained and continues to remain unchanged since the time of Zamenhof. All words in Esperanto are essentially root words that can be combined with other root words or grammatical words to make a wide range of vocabulary. Essentially, it means that even a working knowledge of a few root words and a basic grammar is enough to begin general conversation. To illustrate this ease of recognition, all nouns end in o, all adjectives end in a, all adverbs end in e, all plurals end in a j, pronounced y, all accusative case words end in an n, all verbs end in an s, and present, past, and future tense has as, is, and os, respectively. The prefix mal makes words their opposite, and there are a wide variety of prefixes and suffixes that alter word endings. And even these can be made into words in their own right. It is this flexibility and regularity of the language that makes it comparatively easier to learn than most natural languages, which may have quirks or nonsensical features that one simply has to know in order to properly speak the language. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation on Esperanto. I encourage you all to go out and look up more of the language. Whether you believe it may help unite the world in a common language, or you simply think it's a nice language to learn for its own sake, there is certainly something for anyone who wishes to learn more. Dankon multe, kai gis revido.